you can no longer say you only have 3 viewers.
Yeah, that's really annoying. You know what this means? You're holding it upside down. No, it goes that way.
What is this?
They mailed that to us.
This is the thing that's been in transit for like 6 months?
Yes.
I think we have like 154,000 subscribers, and we get this at 100,000 from YouTube, and this is a big deal to us. And it's basically a medal to show Donnie's actually doing his job.
Thank you. This is for my mom. Hey mom, look what I did.
You did. This was lost in the mail, and then it got sent back to YouTube, and since you can't talk to anybody at YouTube.
One of our employees said Donnie didn't work here, so it got sent back.
What?
So what do you say to people?
Obviously, it's you guys that are subscribing because you have no lives and you're bored.
Whoa!
I'm kidding.
Okay, do it again.
It's really great that we have a good, loyal following where we're reading your comments, and you guys are just really great. And, you know, obviously, we depend on you guys to be interested in our content, and we just want to, you know, thank you. It's humbling, and we appreciate it. What's gold?
A million.
Okay, so we'll see you guys in 10 years.
He literally said that about this. Thank you, everybody. Kevin, how long have we been waiting for something with mites?
A while.
So what are we doing now?
And we finally found it, much to my dismay. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take blood-sucking mites, which are ectoparasites, which actively feed on blood of things like snakes. We're going to put it into a bin, and we're going to engage these mites with something that's very, very predatory, which are ladybugs. I love ladybugs. If you're an aphid, that's your nightmare.
What do you think is going to happen before?
I don't want to hurt my ladybugs because I love ladybugs. I don't want them to get squished. Gardeners, this is your gardener's best friend. So these will eat aphids like monsters. And aphids are basically, they're extracting the fluids from plants. And aphids are very sweet. So they'll get tended by ants that will groom them and get these little drops of, oh no.
Oh, they fly. They fly. Why didn't you say they fly? I didn't know that.
They can't.
Uh-oh.
So we'll see them a lot in the fall all around the building. As there you go, it's attracted
to
you.
One of my face. There's one on my face.
Right on his eye.
Okay.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
So in captivity, we will feed these. Besides, if you can't get aphids, they'll eat small little insects like mites. We're hoping, but you spray them down with a sugar solution because they're after that sugar from the aphids. But I don't know how they're gonna feel about being vampires.
I was instructed to feed them that juice a little bit, and I haven't done it in 2 days to make sure they're hungry.
How many do we want to?
I don't know what the good amount of ladybugs is. This is science, Kevin. Nobody's ever done this before.
Well, science I really like.
Not
as much as social media, because social media is so important.
What? Are they getting out?
No,
Not yet.
We have only lost one ladybug in this.
Okay.
And they're very cute. So, the snake is wondering what we're doing.
There's some dead ones in there. Uh-oh.
Prior to the ladybug is the final stage. There's actually a larval form of ladybugs that you will often find on plants, and these little weird looking corrugated little things will run around and just annihilating every kind of lacewing larva, aphid, whatnot. All right, here we go. Oh, no, I don't want mites anywhere else because we're in a completely mite-free area.
We sprayed the floor even, I guess, to make sure.
Okay, so we got.
Okay, definitely visible marks.
So one thing you'll notice, if you look from the rear end of the snake forward and you look sometimes under the scales, you can see the mites under the scalation. And so these mites will get themselves under there where they actually get to the skin of the snake. So they go under the shielding scale where they can then begin to feed on blood. And so they're biting the snake. I still see our one loose ladybug.
Oh, you didn't put the cap on, Kevin.
Oh my God, there you go. All right.
Attention to failure.
I'm supposed to bring you something fake, you monster.
So we're gonna take my beautiful cowrie tick that has a few mites on it. And we're gonna put it into an enclosure where there are ravenous ladybugs. And we're gonna see if these ladybugs are willing to crawl all over the snake and score a meal, which means anytime the mite comes out from under the scale to crawl around, certainly once it's gorged with blood, where they then leave the snake and then start crawling up and get into little cracks where they lay their eggs. Well, we're hopefully if we put them in this bin, the snake will then cohabitate with these ladybugs and will be cleaned up, and we don't have to do the normal technique to get rid of mites.
And if this doesn't work, what are we gonna do?
If it doesn't work, we can just put in a little bit of Dawn dishwashing detergent. We can suffocate the mites. There's all sorts of commercial things. Generally, Dawn dishwashing detergent is really good. No Pest strip is good. We use no Pest strips now because we're using a lot of cocoa bedding, and one of the problems we're noticing is we're getting these small little like fungal gnats, and you'll see them on the snake and you're like, oh my God, it's a mite, and all of a sudden it goes and it flies. So that's like our latest thing. They don't do anything to the snake, but occasionally you inhale them. I opened up a drawer yesterday and I was like, I was talking to Jeremy and I inhaled it. I was like, rrr.
Okay.
So
All right,
here
now
we
we can go. Ready? I'm ready for it.
That is too complicated.
Uh-oh. Don't be afraid, snake. These are trained, thoroughbred, pure ladybugs.
Trained. I like the way.
They are trained.
And ladybugs aren't gonna hurt the snake or anything, right, Kevin?
No, the ladybugs are not going to hurt the snake. They're innocuous.
What does innocuous mean?
Like they won't do anything bad.
Unless you're a mite.
Yeah, they're just not a worry to the snake, essentially. There would be mites in this enclosure. You know, one quick way to get rid of these, if you wanted to keep your bedding, you could just take this and put it in the freezer. Or you could get it up to temperatures over 140 degrees. The thing about mites being an irritant to the snake, and in large numbers they can really take a lot of blood from the snake. But one thing that we really don't like is if a mite feeds on one animal and then moves to another animal, literally that is like a little hypodermic needle, and so any kind of pathogen in theory could easily be spread. Certainly viruses and whatnot, that's a great way to spread things. So mites, you really want to do your best to make sure that mites are not in your collection. We do another video about Dawn dishwashing detergent, which is a fantastic method of killing mites. And there's all sorts of different things you could use. You could use a hot shot, which is no pest strip. But remember, it's a gas, so it's going to be a heavy gas and it's going to want to go down low. It will accumulate in water dishes, so a good idea is if you are going to use it with a water dish, make sure you're changing that water dish once, twice a day, or you just don't use water dish for a couple days. You get your whole thing in there. Generally, after you've treated your mites, you might want to go into your enclosure and you really want to nuke that enclosure. And remember, when mites are blood-filled gravid females, they're going to crawl up, and they'll crawl, let's say it's in a fish tank, all under that lip, and they're going to lay their eggs there. You might think, oh, the mites are all gone, and then 2 or 3 weeks later, they reappear and they come down there. The little nymph mite is very, very small, so it's very hard to see. We're used to seeing the larger blood-filled mite that you see crawling around, and one sure way to know it's a mite, squish it, and if you get blood, you know that that's a mite and not a piece of bedding.
So we're gonna check back on this and see how it went.
Yeah. All right, so if everybody remembers, this is Jeremy's orange ghost super tiger. And this is the animal that we removed all those eggs from. So we did a video, look what we found inside our giant snake or something like that. and she's still alive.
Whoa!
So, I would like to tell you guys a couple things. Actually, what we did after I removed all those eggs, and we didn't actually keep count of the eggs because we're really worried about the welfare of the animal. It was very stressful all around. We actually had to visit the snake. What was it, like 3 or 4 times? Yeah. 3 times doing these extractions. So it was very, very traumatic, and things can go wrong. She's actually doing quite well. So I think we're in good shape, but I'm going to do a little bit of follow-up, and I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what I actually did.
Why did we find all those calcified eggs inside of the snake? Like, what happened to create that issue in the first place?
All right, so the eggs were remarkably large. This is a demure small snake. So we could just literally come down to a matter of physics. And was this her first?
Yeah.
So this is her first litter, and they were extraordinarily large eggs. So Jeremy was feeding her well. She had good fat reserves. So any snake can go through some kind of problem in reproductive modes, even lizards and stuff too. But if something goes wrong, and it could just be, it is not a condition of anything that Jeremy's done wrong, not a condition of anything. It just happens. It's in the cards. Next year, she's grown. I like to see her get bigger.
The doctor prescribes you must make her bigger so she can pass her eggs.
Reticulated pythons actually lay large eggs. Even a small reticulated python still goes right back to it has to be a certain size. So would it be safe to breed this animal again? My personal idea would be, yeah, if everything is good and he's got some size on it, I think that her next clutch, I've had this happen with ball pythons. I've literally gone through all this with ball pythons, and it looks, oh my goodness, whatever, and then like next clutch is fine. Perfect. If I was pulling out part of her oviduct and it was like torn sheath and it was a mess, then I might be, really apprehensive about that. But in this case, I feel really good. Right now, we want to get her back on food. Immediately after removing these eggs and doing the cleanup of this animal, we want to do supportive therapy, so we make sure that she's in ideal situations, the best temperatures, making sure she's always hydrated, keeping her water clean. We weighed her, and I put her on a regime of antibiotics. So I actually gave her, in this case, I gave her amikacin. That's aminoglide, so you have to make sure the animal is very well hydrated, knowing an accurate weight, and you're treating that animal every 72 hours, intramuscularly giving it in the first third of the animal's body, up here in the dorsal muscle. And it's very simple, but it also made her upset with me because I kept visiting her every 3 days. She's like, first you're taking away my eggs, and now you're stabbing me. So at this point, she's looking really good. I'm looking for any symptoms of any kind of illness, see if we have an ongoing bacterial infection or whatever. So she has, in theory, just recently laid eggs, even though the eggs were not viable in the manner that we had to remove them. So her weight is down. She has not begun to feed, but there are a couple other things I'm going to do. So she's already gone through 7 doses of amikacin, and that means I feel pretty confident that there's no bacterial infection going on. So one thing I do want to do to get things right, sometimes I'll use something called metronidazole, which is Flagyl, and Flagyl is a kind of a remarkable, very broad spectrum drug in the fact of what it does. So it's an anti-protozoal, anti-amoeba. So these are little gastrointestinal parasites that are often, ambient part of this animal's GI tract and their lives. So pretty much all snakes have some type of amoeba or a protozoa. But sometimes if you stress the animal out, the levels of these amoeba with an immune response is having a problem, they get out of hand. They can cause this animal to have like an uncomfortable situation. It can cause little I like that. It causes little micro lesions in the gastrointestinal lining. So we're gonna knock those back down. So one thing, if I hadn't been doing this a lot, what I would do is I'd do something called a cloacal wash, and I'd take roughly 60 cc's of sterile saline solution. I'd put it into a syringe, into a catheter. I'd lube the catheter, and I'd put that into her cloaca, and then I would push this fluid into her cloacal, her GI, her lower GI tract, and I move the fluid around and then draw it back out, and I put that underneath the microscope and look for little things swimming all over the place. And those would be protozoa. Do that. So flagell, as far as being a snake breeder, is actually one of my go-to drugs that I actually use. So you go to a veterinarian, if you have a relationship with a veterinarian for a particular problem with an animal, they're going to administer flagell. They'll generally take this, if it's in a pill form, they're going to put it into a solution, and it dissolves, but it does not become soluble, so to speak, in the water solution. And so it breaks down to very, very small pieces. So what I learned is put this in forceps, right?
Yeah.
And I can do this without causing a great deal of stress. Take I hold her behind the head, right there, and I pull down like that.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
And I go right back there, and it's done. Okay, so I did that first one.
How do you make sure it swallows it?
So all I do is just put it right back here. I got to show you guys a trick about force feeding baby snakes sometime too.
Yes, you do. People are actually interested in that.
I can show you a really good trick. All right, we're gonna do one more. Now you notice she's not biting. I haven't done anything that's horrible as far as restraining her. She's a wonderful snake. We love her brain. This is one of Jeremy's proud babies, and so we're gonna do it one more time. Once again, guys, thumb. What we're gonna do is we're gonna create some tension. I'm only loosely holding her, and I'll usually hold her against my body, so if she struggles, let me fix this a little bit. Hi, baby. And I wanna make sure the pill's going forward, because I don't wanna catch her mouth right there, see? Okay, so now it's in. Sweetie. So what I do, I can just feel right here. And we're good. So when you're treating pythons and boas, not colubrids, the general rule of thumb for dosing would be 125 milligram per kilogram, repeat in 7 to 10 days. There's other ways to do smaller microdosing every 3 days. You can do that too, but this, generally, a veterinarian is usually going to help you. So if you have an animal that is unusually not eating and it's starting to get thin, so you're starting to see enteritis, if you notice that its stool is foul, loose, smelly, if you can just tell something's not right with your animal, that's a really good indicator that metronidazole might be in order. So going to a vet, they'll do a cloacal wash or a fecal and see what's going on with the animal. And when we treat this, we usually start seeing results within 3 to 5 days. Besides killing protozoa and amoeba, it's also a limited bactericidal agent, and it's very, very good at killing bacteria in an oxygen-deprived environment, which is like the lower intestine. So sometimes, if we have a bacterial problem, it can also be treated with metronidazole too. So it's a very powerful drug, and in humans, it's actually treating things like venereal disease or I think like syphilis or whatever.
I gotta turn my camera on, dude. You didn't turn your camera on!